Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss VDC, Virtual Device Context, where we will focus on what is VDC, why we create VDC, how many VDCs can be configured, how these VDCs will communicate with each other. Let's start with VDC. So, VDC is a mechanism which is used to create multiple virtual switches in such a way so that they looks like different physical switch to remote user or to remote devices. Each virtual switch is configured and managed in same way as we configure or manage a separate physical switch. I mean to say that each VDC will have separate control plane, data plane, and management plane. Let's take an example. Let's assume you have a data center where you have deployed Nexus 7K and your company is providing hosting services. Now, let's say one customer came to you for hosting services. So what you can do is like you can virtualize your Nexus 7K into multiple virtual switches and assign one virtual switch called VDC to that particular customer. For customer, this VDC will act as a separate switch and they can do whatever they want to do with this particular VDC. However, other VDC on same box will remain unaffected. Let's take another example where let's say you want to test some features before applying those protocol or those features in production environment. So what we need is new Nexus 7K, right? Or what you can do is you can create one VDC for testing. Okay, let's move to another slide. Here you can see that we have one Nexus 7K where we have created VDC A and VDC B. This is architectural view of Nexus 7K with VDC. At base, we have kernel, right? Linux kernel, and we have infrastructure layer that provided by NXOS, basically handling our hardware programming. Okay. Now, let's say we are running VLAN 10 in VDC A. Same way we have VDC 10, VLAN 10 in VDC B. So basically what I am trying to say is VLAN 10 in VDC A is different from a VLAN 10 in VDC B. Means they will have separate process at each VDC. Okay. At this point, we hopefully understood the benefit of VDC, right? And reason behind creating a VDC. Just wanted to add one thing. Let's say you have like a feature which cannot exist with other feature. I mean to say like OTP and SVI cannot coexist in same VDC. What we have to do? We need another device or we can create VDC and we can configure accordingly, right? Another thing is, let's say there is OSPF process got crashed on VDC A. It is not going to impact OSPF process which is running on VDC B. So what we got from VDC is flexible separation for your software component and your hardware component. Make sense? Same way in this topology, we on one Nexus 7K, we have created three VDC, VDC1, VDC2, VDC3. I just wanted to let you know, like here we have to think like we have three switches, and VRF in VDC1 is separate from VRF which is on VDC2. So OSPF on VDC1 is separate from OSPF process which is running on VDC2. Okay. How many VDCs can be configured or can be created? So it depends which supervisor engine we have. We have different type of supervisor engine for Nexus 7K. We have SOUP 1, we have SOUP 2, we have SOUP 2E. And if let's say if we have SOUP 1, then we can create 4 VDC. In newer NXOS, we can create 4 plus 1 VDC. On SOUP 2, we can have 4 plus 1 VDC. If we are running SOUP 2E, which means we can have 8 plus 1 VDC. When I'm saying plus 1, it means I'm saying plus 1 admin VDC. We'll discuss about admin VDC in next few slides. Okay. So different type of VDCs. There are 4 type of VDCs: default VDC, admin VDC, non-default VDC, and storage VDC. So let me start with default VDC. Default VDC allows us to do administrative tasks along with control and data plane. Admin VDC only allows us to perform administrative function. Means we will not have user traffic if we have admin VDC. Apart from that, we have some tasks that can be performed in admin VDC or in default VDC, like VDC creation. If you want to delete VDC, if you want to suspend VDC, or if you want to allocate resources, or you want to upgrade NXOS, or you want to do EPLD upgrade, scope related things, then those things can be done in default VDC, not in storage or non-default VDC. Okay. So to understand the like default VDC and admin VDC, like we will go to the next slide. I would like to add one thing. Default VDC and admin VDC cannot coexist. And VDC1 is reserved. Either it can be admin VDC or it can be default VDC. Here, like you may see one question: what is the difference between admin VDC and default VDC? As I said before, in default VDC, we can do administrative tasks along with control plane and data plane, which means we can forward user traffic in in default VDC. However, in admin VDC, we just allowed to perform administrative function only. Okay. We'll add through this slide. Here we have admin VDC. We have created 2 non-default VDC and we have 1 storage VDC. Again, there is a license requirement if you want to create more than 1 VDC. Okay. So let's go to this particular diagram where we have VDC1 as an admin VDC. As I said before, VDC1 can be admin VDC or default VDC. Okay, but they cannot coexist at same time. So here we have admin VDC. In admin VDC, there will be no interface, only management interface. Special like special rights. When I say admin VDC have special right, which means we can upgrade, we can create VDC, we can delete VDC, we can do EPLD upgrade, we can do system wide changes. like co-policy changes or ETH analyzer can be done in admin VDC only. Okay. No user traffic if we have VDC1 as an admin VDC. Let's say in another diagram, we have VDC1 as a default VDC. In that case, user traffic can be forwarded via default VDC. Okay. Again, the task like VDC creation, deleting VDC, suspended can be done from default VDC. Resource allocation can be done from default VDC. NXOS upgrade or EPLD upgrade, scope related changes. Okay, those can be performed only from VDC1, which can be again admin or default depending on your implementation. When I say storage VDC, basically used when we need to implement send functionality, right? And we need again licenses for that. Make sense? So far, all good? Okay. So now you may have a question how admin VDC will be created. We will discuss about that more in detail later. However, I just wanted to show this particular slide. Let's say you booted your Nexus 7K and you will see something like this. Do you want to enable admin VDC? If you say yes, which means VDC1 will be your admin VDC. Okay. So you will be able to do administrative functions only. If you say no, which means VDC1 will be your default VDC, which means it allows you to do administrative tasks along with control plane and data plane functionality. Basically, you can send data traffic. Whenever you are creating admin VDC, means it will replace your default VDC. Make sense? Okay. So let me come to resource type. We have three types of resources: global resources, dedicated resources, and shared resources. Okay. I will talk more about dedicated resource that are allocated to a particular VDC will be referenced as a dedicated resource. Like you have assigned a port from default VDC or from admin VDC to a particular VDC, or you have created a VLAN, you have enabled a feature in particular VDC that is separate from other VDCs. I mean to say dedicated to that particular VDC. We have shared resource as well, like out of band management. We have global resources as well, like boot image configuration, scope. Okay. Now, how to configure VDCs. Okay. Let's say you have configured one VDC. Okay. From where you are going to configure those in default VDC or admin VDC, depending on your implementation, right? So we have something called super user. Okay. Where we have network admin role or network operator role users. Let's say if your user is with network admin, means that particular user have complete read write access to entire box. Okay. And if you say network operator, means complete read only access to entire box. When we say VDC admin, which means read write access to particular VDC. Okay. When you say VDC operator, means read only access limited to that particular VDC. So indirectly you have four user: network admin, network operator, which comes in default VDC, VDC admin, and VDC operator, which is limited to particular VDC. Here, I just wanted to add one point. Default VDC user inherit the role read write or read only in non-default VDC. Okay, we have like, as we know, we have different type of line card, M1 family, M series family, or F series family, where we have M1, M2, F1, F2, F2E, F3 line card, right? We have few limitation. I would say whenever you are creating VDC, I suggest you to go with module type limitations. Okay, like F2 series module cannot share a VDC with M1, M2, F1 series line card. Okay, so here I am not going to take much time on that. I always suggest to go through the release. Okay, now inter VDC communication. Okay, let's say I have one Nexus box and I have created VDC 1, 2, 3. How they are going to communicate with each other? So there is no internal cross VDC communication. Okay, we need front panel connectivity to communicate in between VDCs. I mean to say, I have to lay cable from VDC 2 ports to VDC 3 whenever I want communication between VDC 2 and 3. Okay. And the third point is like whenever we are using VPC or VPC plus, ensure domain ID is unique. This is applicable everywhere. Okay. Like whenever you have double-sided VPC or whenever you are creating VPC, please make sure you are using unique domain ID. Okay. And then here we have command references. Whenever you create VDCs, there are few reference commands which you can refer. Okay. So hope this was useful. In next session, we will do the practical part of VDC. Hopefully it was useful. Thank you. Thank you so much.